Alright YouTube, I'm going to give you a tour on replacing the battery in a Pebble Steel and doing some other maintenance to it to ensure that it continues to keep functioning. You're going to need quite a few different tools. I'm going to do a pretty comprehensive video, so settle in. You can skip around or look through the table of contents if you want to see a specific part, but if you've never done this before and you have some time on your hands, go ahead and get the right tools. This is a pry bar with a point on it, which is super helpful. Got solder over here. One of these nice replaceable screwdrivers, or interchangeable. This pry bar with this shape is super helpful. Has a pokey side on the other side, which is fine. A flat, sharp razor blade. Some flux. And a soldering station, which I don't have. So we're gonna make do with some masking tape. That's alright with all you engineers out there. People be shuddering, turning over in their grave looking at this, you know. This is not the way to do it, but this is what we're gonna do. That'll come into play later. I got a pre-cut zebra strip right here. I actually might have to cut it a little bit. Pebble Steel. I think you could use like a T4 or T5, you know. Hex screwdriver. You've probably seen this 100 times. I have a little piece of tape I keep over here where I put my screws on. It's a good idea to stay clean. It's one reason why I wear gloves. Sometimes batteries can really be bad and there will be acid on the inside of the case, so you probably just want to protect your skin from that. It's nice to work in a dustless environment. It's probably not possible for the hobbyist, or, you know, I guess you could take steps to make sure it's super dustless and whatever, but okay, so the next thing you do, the first thing you do when you get these 4 screws off is I take my pry bar right here and push it to at the top of the case where the 3 buttons are at the top. And get it up just enough so that you can fit the pry bar down deep, and this way you can snag the motor, the vibe motor, which is, you know, glued. There's adhesive on it connecting it to the back plate, and so whenever you're taking a back plate off, you don't want to take it off too quickly or risk damaging the vibe motor. So here I'm going to use the pointed end of my pry bar, and there's 4 clips all around the inner chassis of the Pebble. Try to get focus. So I'm filming this on my Pixels, so might not be the best. It's hard to see, but you can see these clips right here. Really wish I had a good way to focus this. That clip right there is what you use to put your pry bar right in there, pry it up over the case. Now, you do it carefully, because if you look over here, you can see these 2, they're like pieces of tin foil. They're super, super fragile. They obviously connect the charging port to the board, so you have to be careful of those. You can shear them off if you take this out like hastily or inappropriately. So I get all four up and then just use my fingernails and just kind of grab it. Usually comes out like this. Then you can look and check to see if the display connector is still inside or if it's stuck to the display, in which case I use these needle nose pliers, which I didn't mention, but you need a nice set. I use the flat, I like to use flat needle nose pliers with no teeth on them. And I mean, you can pull this out with your finger. I just do this to try and stay clean. You can pretty much throw that thing away, it's useless. Alright, so once you have that, I like to put the faceplate or back plate right back on. And paying attention to the orientation is sometimes important because you can easily reverse it. Once you have the innards out, the first thing I like to do is using the same plastic spudgers to very gently get underneath this ribbon cable, and there's like a little Lego connector that you can just pop open. That's a necessary step for further disassembly, and it's kind of nice to do early on so you don't damage it too much. The next part is a little tricky and you have to use a lot of control, but you're going to get your wedge underneath the battery, and which is being held to the black chassis with double-sided adhesive tape. And so if you kind of care, without puncturing it, so this is where, like, if you want to be really serious, you might want to wear glasses or something, but you know, and use plastic tools, but without puncturing it, you can essentially separate the battery from the double-sided adhesive tape. It's a little tricky, and then you need to do this like secret motion to get this back here. Just scraping it away. Can't see it. Bam. Okay. Super tricky to get it nice like that. Like, you might have to just tear out the tape and be fine with it. The next steps are a little tricky for beginners as well, and that's maybe where this pry bar comes back into place. You essentially, the board is held in place by clips on either side of the chassis, in little tiny clips on the inside, and like a little peg. And if you look on the outside, you can see the pogo peg coming through, and there's a little, I don't know where it is, it's somewhere in here, but so basically I just put my tool on one side of this and kind of dislodge it from the clips, and then I actually use the battery as a little bit of a pull cable, and the angles on this are kind of hard to show, but you'd like want to put outward pressure on the frame, and just so that, and you see that little divot right there, that tiny little, that guy, that thing holds the it's part of where the clip stays. You just have to kind of pull it out, pop it out. It might take some finagling. The tricky part sometimes is that pogo pin can get hung up. But yeah, you just kind of get it out. Then I flip this over on the back, and I honestly think it's best just to tear this ribbon cable right off and just leave all the solder and everything right there on the pads. So I pull it against itself and snap it off. Throw it in my super safe battery bucket. And then I like to take this tool and just kind of clean up whatever this is. I think it's like silicone that maybe they blast on there at the end to kind of ensure that there are no shorts. That, or maybe it's flux, I don't know. Not really sure. I like to get rid of this because I don't want it to interfere with my solder job. And then we're going to put this on our ultra high quality soldering station. Just gonna adjust the technical instruments to get it just right. Gonna bring over its conductive paperweight. Don't worry, everything's fine, I promise. Oh, cool, you can kind of see me. Alright. Let's see, so now we want to get our new battery, which you can buy them in like big stacks. I usually buy like 50 at a time. The failure rate on these most recent ones are pretty low. Very few of them have had any kind of capacity issues. I think only one hasn't worked like right away. Most of them work right away and they have a charge. It's 150 MAs. I got that goop on there by accident. So keep it a little more clean. Put that on the tape. So I pull off, you just pull off the plastic. The tape, expose the wires. Let's zoom out a little bit so you can see me do this. Just get the flux. Just dip it in here. Sorry about all these angles. Just kind of get the leads of each wire in there. Put that to the side. Oh, my soldering iron's not hot. Make sure your soldering iron is plugged in and hot. So pause while that heats up. Alright, it's heating up. I do not have a very awesome soldering iron. It's just a basic Radio Shack single temp. It gets really hot and I have to unplug it. I feel like it's gonna overheat. It's pretty basic, but it does the job. Just like this ridiculous soldering station. So now we're going to very carefully pick up the battery by its positive lead, and I might be doing this backwards, and if I am, just tell me. If anybody has any feedback, I'd be happy to hear it. I'm not a professional. Getting steady hands would be nice though. Iron is not hot enough. Let's see if it's hot enough now. Oh yeah, bye. Kind of an ugly job. Yikes. Would really like for that to be better. Might be alright. Also could have been better. Alright, so one thing you want to do when you're done soldering is check for high points to make sure you didn't peak any of the solder. Those are pretty flat. The joint on the left is not great. There's some like hairs. This is actually legitimately useful sometimes. I'm gonna resolder it. It's not good enough. I'm gonna pause the video though. Alright, that was fine. That was easy. Okay. So now, back out a little bit. Now it's just backwards. Just put everything back together. Just go slow, take your time, don't force anything. This is where your Lego skills come into play, you know? You have to feel for that right click. So I kind of just get it in position, and then I do push down and push up. The thing is up. You really need to push it up into where it's supposed to be at as well. You can kind of get a guide by looking over here. See how the pogo is not far enough up. There you go. That's much more in place now. The next part, this is super important right here. This little Lego connector. You know, you can see it's these two things that need to clip together. Right there. I just kind of like gently push them together. I make sure it's pulled back a little bit. You know, this ribbon cable, you want this ribbon cable, you don't want it like taut, you kind of want it back like snare drum, I don't know. And then you just push down on this little spongy buddy until you feel like a nice click. And ideally, it won't be popping up like this. I actually haven't gotten it yet. There we go. Okay. Been rattling this cage over here. Now we're going to get our zebra strip, our new one, and we're gonna have to cut it to size. Again, this is some really highly skilled engineering that's gonna happen here, but you essentially just take this razor blade. You can use one of the, I could find these like in the right size. I haven't looked very hard. If you know the right size, let me know. But I just kind of put that, see how long it is. I bring the razor blade in here, cut it to length, and then you actually have to cut off, it's too tall, like it's too wide. Like see the difference? You need to cut the millimeters down. I wish I had like a little press, a little machine that would just do it for me. Instead I just like military calibrated eyeball, just line it up. If it's good enough for platinum and apex, it's good enough for cutting zebra strips. Alright, so we got our display connector. I got a little junk on the backlight sheet here. Looks like some hair or something. I should have some canned air or something. It's just in my lungs. Here we go. This one you kind of got to push in a little bit. You know, this is sitting a lot higher than the OEM one, right? So I didn't even cut this down all the way to the OEM. The OEM one is like almost flush with the case. It's like much smaller. Two reasons. One, because it ensures, in my opinion, like a forever long pressure. And for another is you don't want it too small. So it's like, it's kind of a win-win. Who knows how long these will last. They appear to be much sturdier and stronger than the OEM ones. Cutting it high does have its disadvantages, including backlight leaking and kind of like backlight distortion, especially when it's at night and it's dark out and stuff. You can like easily see that there are some like backlight irregularities. So then just find a convenient way to, you know, tuck the wires in. I kind of like to try and pull them to their extremes. I'm not sure if that's bad practice or what, but this is like usually the snuggest arrangement. And then you get like the flat back. Sometimes it can help to like really make sure that these wires go into that like bottom thing and then kind of pinch them. I don't know. You tell me. Got feedback? Leave them in the comments. Maybe for this one we'll go rogue. I've never done this arrangement before, but these leads seem pretty short, so maybe we'll just consolidate them to there. You can check the profile to see if it's high. It looks like it's probably a little high where it meets the board. Maybe that'll even out when you put the pressure of the backplate on there. You know, I think about what these went through in the factory. I mean, this is much more high precision. So you just want to open it back up, make sure the zebra strip goes to where it's supposed to be going, and then just gently push it straight down all four corners at once like this until you hear 4 clicks. Firm it in if you want. You can check to see if there's a high point. We do see it higher in this side over here. That's because of that zebra strip. You can also see our ribbon cable and our battery peaking. There's a little tiny bit of room in the back case for that type of stuff, our back plate. Just put the back plate over it. You know, you could take like silicone grease and go all around this gasket with it and that would probably add to the waterproof sealing. As it is, it's probably still water resistant to some degree. I mean, it's all about making sure that there's a really good seal. Before you screw it up though, you want to make sure that it works. You don't have to unscrew it again. Just pull over a charging cable here. Sometimes they won't power on until you plug them in. We see display glitch. That might be because my hand was not pressing firmly. Looks like we got a reboot. Sometimes they like have a little fun time when they boot up. This looks like it's hanging in there. You can kind of see some of that yellowing and display stuff. Get in here and forget this person's phone. Go back, and now that we know it works, I mean, you're not going to kill it. Oh, see, that's atypical. That typically would not happen. Usually with these batteries, that hangs in there. That was an instant death. Well, maybe it was just... yeah, I don't know. We'll screw it up and see what happens. So I'm going to put this back together, and that's pretty much it. You know, the rest is pretty self-explanatory. The case does need to be firmly, you know, put together for the display to work. That's what that pogo pen's all about. So, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask away. Trying to think if there's anything else important to say. When you first started up, you might need to like restart it a couple times. I don't know. I'm sure you can figure it out. You guys are smart people. So yeah, good luck.